I'm going to get comfortable. This one's going to take a while. Last night, I watched The Matrix Resurrections, and it was terrible. I was bored all the way through, except for maybe like one or two spots. So I'm going to get the one thing that I liked out of the way right at the beginning. The one thing that I liked was the joke where Thomas Anderson's medication is blue pills. That's it. That's what I liked about The Matrix Resurrections. Matrix Resurrections, though, it had everything, to be fair. It had stuff from The Matrix Reloaded, The Matrix Revolutions. It had elements from The Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, Galaxy Quest, Inception, Monsters Incorporated.
Keep moving! Get inside! That was weird.
Ocean's 11, Dawn of the Dead, the original. Dawn of the Dead, the new one. This movie had so much in it. It had so many different things. So, the one thing I think it was missing was another Wachowski to balance out ideas. I feel like I can tell that this movie needed someone else to kind of rein it in. There was only one Wachowski that worked on it, and this movie needed another one. I want to talk about a phrase that I use when I teach cinema now, a phrase that I use when I teach my theater classes and talk about contemporary film and television products, particularly film. The phrase is worshiping at the altar of nostalgia, because that's what we do now. We worship at an altar toward the things in the past that we loved. I've talked about this with the Star Wars movies, with the new Jurassic World movies, some other things. This is not a new thing, though. It really started with Scream 4, where Scream 4 was so worshipful of the previous films.
To our guest, Sidney Prescott, it's an honor.
It attempted to be even more self-aware and postmodern than Scream really was. Scream 4 was not a good movie. It was terrible. I after watching The Matrix Resurrections, there's no way I can go and see Scream 5, because I can only imagine that Scream 5 is going to be an amped up version of The Matrix Resurrections. When I talk about worshiping at the altar of nostalgia, I mean that people are worshiping things like lightsabers in Star Wars films, or particular kinds of characters from Star Wars films. And in this film, in The Matrix Resurrections, there is a literal altar with Lawrence Fishburne's wooden body or stone body, whatever it is. It's a sculpture of Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus, which is an altar dedicated to Neo, so that doesn't make any sense, because they're like, this is where people come. But they built the altar for Morpheus, even though they're worshiping Neo. See, this movie, it's all out of whack. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and there was no stopping that. No one at Warner Brothers or anywhere was going to say that they were going to stop what Wachowski was doing, because they were going to make this movie no matter what. And it shows. It shows that they were definitely going to make a movie, and they were going to spend a lot of money on it no matter what. So good for them. Again, great job. Good. The original Matrix was a messianic allegory where Neo was sort of the Jesus figure who was, only a handful of people believed in him. He died, he rose, and then he, at the very end, ascends into heaven. In this film attempts to do, instead of a messianic allegory, Neo already is the messianic figure. And so even the machines worship Neo. They raise up his little, whatever the pod is that he's in. They raise that up so that he and Trinity are at the highest points. It's a different color building, which is nice. It's got white instead of red on it, so that our heroes are able to discern that this is the building that has Neo and Trinity. So that was nice that they color coded the building so that our heroes could find the good building. Neo, in particular, is raised to this messianic level from the beginning, and everybody already believes in him. The crew, they're all on board with this. And so it's a weird dynamic. It's not, I don't want to say that it's bad, but it's different. It brings in the ship that Neo gets awakened on feels very much like when in Galaxy Quest they bring Tim Allen onto the ship for the first time, and all the Thermians believe that he's the captain, the commander, and he's not really that guy. And in this, Neo is that guy. He was that guy. He's not anymore. He has to become that guy. Just like in Galaxy Quest, they're actually very similar. I think the thing that's maybe the most offensive is because Neo and Trinity are put in this prominent place. They're really the only characters that we can care about because they're elevated so high. Everyone else is just kind of pushed to the side, one-dimensional, shallow, not much to them. And the irony is that we, who worship at the altar of nostalgia, right? They worship at the altar of Neo. They certainly lit one of those hundreds of candles that were in that room. Those characters on the ship are representative of us, the fans who come and worship these things. And so in a way, it's kind of offensive because they see us as shallow, as stuck on, researching celebrities as they grow and their histories. It took me an hour and 20 minutes to learn the name of the captain of the ship because she mumbled at the beginning. She was like, she kind of, as an actress, I don't know if it's character choice or what she would normally do. She keeps her mouth closed, like her teeth together, and she talks. So she's like, yeah, we're going to do this thing. And so it was tough to understand her. And so my wife thought that her name was Buzz. I thought her name was Blood. We went back and watched it again. Neither were really confirmed. It turns out, an hour and 20 minutes, that her name was Bugs, like the bunny. Ha. She's got the rabbit on her arm. She's Bugs Bunny. Ha. This is the stupidest movie ever made. So the main character, I didn't know what her name was. I had a chance to learn her name about an hour in when they introduced the rest of the crew. But the way that it was done, I thought Bugs was the guy who knew Neo's entire history, like the historical expert. I thought that he was Bugs because I thought that was akin to Mouse from the first movie. I thought that guy was Bugs, but it turns out that the captain was Bugs. See, they don't even want to give us proper introductions to these characters. That's how poorly put together this film for hundreds of millions of dollars was. I want to talk about Jada Pinkett Smith and her character, Niobe, I think. I knew it was her. I knew what character it was. They elderlied her so that she would be, an additional 40 years older than she actually is. But in the scenes that she had with Neo, the movie felt the age that she was portraying. These ideas felt old. This idea of a post-narrative universe, a meta-universe, felt old. It felt dated. Everything just looked and felt old and used and ready to be put out of its misery. I don't want to say it was a disservice to Jada Pinkett Smith, but it was definitely a disservice to us to put us through something old again. I should probably talk about the structure of these movies. Of this movie, I guess. This movie had a very strange structure. It's an attempt to meld something old but doing it in a new way. To be honest, it's not really all that clever. If you're looking at like the circus tent, okay, of the entire film, the tent poles that are being raised up, those tent poles are from the original film. Okay, Neo or Thomas Anderson, before he's Neo, having to take the pill, having to wake up, getting onto the ship, the flying at the end. Okay, the tent poles are all from the original film. The story is really mostly from the second and third films. You've got Trinity having the nightmares that we thought Neo was kind of having in the other ones. It borrowed most of the story elements and philosophical discourse and sitting down and talking for a long time. It borrowed all that from mostly the second film and a little bit from the third. So it borrowed from the worse films, and it just took like the sort of visual cues and big points from the first movie. So they really designed it structurally in the worst possible way. Oh, another film that I forgot that had some elements from was the bathroom fight scene in Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines is like 1,000 times better than The Matrix Resurrections. So if you want to watch a fun movie where there's a fight scene where a bathroom gets destroyed, you should watch Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, not Terminator Dark Fate. Terminator Dark Fate is The Matrix Resurrections to Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines, The Matrix. It's just, we're just doing this thing again. This is not a new idea. None of these ideas are new.
And I am here.
Oh, the movie's also like Bewitched. At the very end, she just keeps snapping and things keep happening. Like, she knocks off his jaw and then she snaps and his jaw's back on. The third act of the film combines two things. The first half of the third act is Ocean's 11, where you sort of are talking about the plan that you're going to engage in. It was more like Ocean's 11 and not like Mission Impossible, because Mission Impossible was sort of thrilling and exciting, and Ocean's 11, they really just wanted to give you kind of a debriefing as to what was going to happen later. And so it's more like Ocean's 11, but they're telling you kind of, they're going into the plan and getting ready for it. It's almost exactly like Ocean's 11 in that the way that Danny and his job is to go and be on the floor so that he can get caught by Andy Garcia over here, while everybody else is doing their thing over here to actually get the money. You've got Neo. He goes in to meet with Barney Stinson, and everybody else is doing their thing in order to pull Trinity out, not in the Matrix. It's very much like Ocean's 11 in terms of the first half of the third act. I shouldn't be too hard on Neil Patrick Harris. The role was horrible. The lines were terrible, but he did fine as this pseudo-therapist who becomes your counselor nightmare. That was fine. I mean, everything, he was fine. The movie's terrible. He was in a terrible movie. That's too bad. So the first act is like Ocean's 11. The second act is very much like Dawn of the Dead, but both the old and the new Dawn of the Dead. Because you've got the old Dawn of the Dead when the zombies are moving slowly because Neo's using the Force, like in Star Wars. Right? He does this thing, and everything slows down. Okay, or the zombies move fast like they do, and he goes boom, and the zombies go rah. Okay, so it's very much like that. I laughed out loud at a couple different moments in the film that were unintentional, and I would say the main one was when the the zombie bots in the second half of the third act start jumping out of skyscraper windows and throwing themselves down to sort of destroy the Earth as Trinity and Neo ride on their little motorcycle chase. I just thought it was funny. It wasn't exciting, and it wasn't. I didn't feel any tension, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Why? It just became a zombie movie. Even my wife said that, and she may have seen one zombie movie, and she understands that that's what happened. Why don't I feel any tension at all? Well, it starts, to be fair, in the dojo. It starts in the dojo when Neo starts getting his mojo. And so he's in the dojo getting his mojo, and he's fighting with Morpheus and Morpheus Smith. I don't even want to get into that. So he's fighting, and we realize that Neo is remembering things and getting his powers back. Cut to the end of the film. Neo is able to stop all the bullets, and so we got bullets coming. He stops them. They're up on top of a building, and they've got big helicopters, like gunships, with just, rattling off like 50 caliber armament. And he stops the bullets, right? And then they show the shot from very similar to the original Matrix, where the large caliber bullets or the shells are falling from the helicopter. Callback, which we'll get to callbacks. Well, maybe we won't. Morpheus made a joke about a callback, like he wasn't sure about the callback. And that line was probably the first moment where I really hated the movie. I was just bored up until that moment, but then that line made me start to hate the movie. So Neo's up on the top of the roof with Trinity, and he's stopping the bullets. Spoilers, he can stop bullets. So he's stopping the bullets, and then they're launching missiles, which they were already launching missiles on the ground before, like they're being led into a kill zone. They're already launching missiles, and he already has the ability to not get singed or hurt or anything, because remember, it's a computer program. The whole point of the Matrix is that if you understand that you're inside of the program, then you can just change and alter the program how you wish. So yeah, he can stop missiles. He moves one missile to destroy something else. There's no tension. There's no drama. It's more like we're just watching him work. It's like, being able to stop bullets for Neo is like paperwork. It's literally like, turning the page, stamping the section, taking out the staple, putting it through the scanner, making sure that the scanner gets it into the right document, and then doing that again. That's what stopping bullets is in the Matrix movies. In the first movie, when Neo stops the bullets, this is the climax of the film. This is the moment where, after he's shot, he gets up and he stops the bullets. There's no more tension after that. All the tension has been resolved in that moment. And that leads to Neo defeating everyone, to jumping into Agent Smith and taking over. And so the tension at that point, that was the release of tension from all the tension we'd been feeling in the movie. This film does not allow us to have any tension, because there's no drama. We don't have even the most remote sense that anything bad is going to happen to either Neo or Trinity at this point. See, there's a point earlier, if Trinity had walked out the door with her family and just left, I would have given this movie so much credit. I probably wouldn't have liked the movie. I don't know what they would have done for the last 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was, for the second portion of Act 3. I don't know that I would have enjoyed the movie anymore, but I would have given it credit in trying to do something new, trying to do something different, where maybe things don't work out for everybody. Because, The Matrix Revolutions, while not a great movie, it had so much sacrifice, and it ended with sort of this peace treaty and resolution. And again, I did not like the movie, but I can see the way that they tried to put these things together. This film doesn't do that. This film turns it into your basic romance film. This film is essentially the plot of Sleepless in Seattle, where, they don't even meet until the very end in Sleepless in Seattle. They don't come together until like the very last moment. And that's what this film is. It's about the coming together of Neo and Trinity. And sort of, like, that's what the last 2/3 of the movie is about. The first portion of the film isn't, I don't know what happened in the first portion of the film. It wasn't good, but at least it felt like it was trying to do something, and the last 2 acts felt like it was no longer trying to do something. So I want to talk about Morpheus, because the actor that they got to play this Morpheus, I guess I'll talk about the acting. So the actor that they got to play this Morpheus, I really like. I don't like the character of Morpheus and what they did to him at all. He kind of becomes this big joke. He does, like the moves in the dojo. He dresses as flamboyantly as humanly possible. He cracks sort of these philosophical, metaphysical jokes that do not land. They do not. I hated the setup where Neo walks onto the literal stage where they've staged the scene from the first Matrix. Oh, this movie is terrible. It's so bad. So the actor was great. I think that I'm glad that he was in a big movie, because hopefully he'll get more work that he can be appreciated for, because this role was not great either for it wasn't a good role for anybody, but somebody had to be this stupid version of Morpheus, and I guess I'm glad that it was this guy. Hopefully he won't get Jar Jar Binksed. I like Jonathan Groff in Hamilton. I like him as Kristoff. I did not care for Mindhunters. I think the show itself is too stale and stoic, just like Social Network. I don't like Social Network. I think that it's stale and stoic, and the characters are stale and stoic. The actors are stale and stoic. I feel like Mindhunters was that way, and those are both Social Network, and Mindhunters are both David Fincher. Mindhunters has Jonathan Groff, and I look at Jonathan Groff in Mindhunters and The Matrix Resurrections, and I feel like Jonathan Groff is stale and stoic, maybe just in these kind of, in these kind of things. I don't know. Maybe he needs the comedy. I don't know. There are plenty of actors that just need the comedy. I don't know why when Trinity is flying at the end, they just did some sort of suspension where she looks like she's hanging, holding on to Neo, rather than making her be able to fly, because Neo he flies like this, but she flies like she's suspended, like in the Mission Impossible movie where he's actually suspended. It would have been much more interesting if maybe she could fly like Chris Farley when he goes up to the plane of enlightenment in Beverly Hills Ninja. That would have been much more interesting. Trinity and Neo, they look old too. And this is not a knock. This is not any type of insult. People get older. I can see why they didn't bring in Hugo Weaving and Lawrence Fishburne, who probably both said no. Well, their agents probably both said no. But I'm not surprised they didn't bring them in, because those cast members were a little bit older. And it's tough to do the kind of action sequences that Morpheus and the Smith do in this movie. It's, you can't keep that up forever. And it makes the movie feel old. Even watching at the end when they hug, it was weird that the light kind of focuses on, you've got Carrie-Anne Moss's sort of shaved head, and the highlight was just the little gray hairs just barely coming out of her scalp. And it was just, it felt like their time has passed. It felt like their time had passed.